Modern Real Estate Practice, page 302. The highest and best use of a site can change with social, political, and economic forces. A parking lot in a busy downtown area, for example, may not maximize the land's profitability to the same extent that an office building would. On the other hand, if the downtown area has an oversupply of office space but is short of parking areas, the parking lot may be the most profitable current use of the land. Increasing and diminishing returns. The addition of improvements to land and structures tends to increase the property's market value, but only to a certain point. Beyond that point, additional improvements no longer affect a property's value, because buyers or renters in the market cannot be expected to pay more for the property. As long as money spent on improvements produces an increase in income or value, the law of increasing returns applies. At the point where additional improvements do not increase income or value, the law of diminishing returns applies. No matter how much money is spent on the property's value does not keep pace with expenditures. A remodeled kitchen or bathroom might increase the value of a house, adding restaurant quality appliances and handcrafted wood floors. However, could be costs that the owner would not be able to recover. In practice, the law of diminishing returns sometimes creates an awkward situation during a listing appointment. The owner is proud of all the improvements that have been made to the property and may produce a box filled with receipts for all the additions that have been made to the property over the years. When the real estate professional presents the carefully prepared CMA, however, it becomes clear that the probable market value of the property will not cover the cost of the improvements. The real estate professional must be prepared to explain why it would be foolhardy for the owner to set a listing price high enough to cover all of those costs. The real estate professional must also know how to react if the owner chooses to ignore the evidence presented by the CMA. A property listing that languishes on the market because the listing price is too high is bad for everyone. Plottage. The principle of plottage is in evidence when the consolidation of adjacent lots into a single larger one produces a greater total land value than the sum of the two sites valued separately. For example, two adjacent lots valued at $35,000 each might have a combined value of $90,000 if consolidated. The process of merging two separately owned lots under one owner is known as assemblage. Plottage is the amount that the value of the combined properties is increased by successful assemblage. Regression and progression. In general, the worth of a better quality property is adversely affected by the principle of a lesser quality property. This is known as the principle of regression. Thus, in a neighborhood of modest homes, a structure that is larger, better maintained, or more luxurious would tend to be valued in the same range as the less lavish homes. Conversely, under the principle of progression, the value of a modest home would be higher if it were located among larger, fancier properties. Substitution. According to the principle of substitution, the maximum value of a property tends to be set by how much it would cost to purchase an equally desirable and valuable substitute property. Substitution is the foundation of the sales comparison approach to appraising that is discussed later. Page 303. Supply and demand. The principle of supply and demand operates in the real estate market just as it does in the market for any product. The value of a product depends on the supply, the number of such products available in the marketplace. When the supply of similar properties increases, their value decreases, and when demand for such properties increases, their values increases. In practice, the factors of supply and demand tend to operate in a cycle and point out how the immovability of real estate is a critical part of that cycle. When there is a high demand for homes and relatively few properties available for sale, prices will go up. This could be caused by a number of factors, from business expansion in the area to a natural disaster that destroys part of the housing supply. At the same time, another area may be experiencing a glut of properties on the market, usually because of dismal economic conditions that force companies to close or downsize. Some residents will choose to move to where the work is, putting even more properties on the market and also placing additional pressure on businesses that struggle to survive as a declining and less prosperous population reduces the demand for their products and services. The three approaches to value. To arrive at an accurate opinion of value, an appraiser traditionally uses one or more of three basic valuation techniques: the sales comparison approach, the cost approach, and the income approach. The three methods serve as checks against each other, and using more than one approach helps the appraiser narrow the range of the final conclusion of value. Each approach is most useful with a specific type of property. The sales comparison approach. In the sales comparison approach, also known as the market data approach, value is obtained by comparing the property being appraised, the subject property, with recently sold comparable properties, properties similar to the subject in location and features, because no two parcels of real estate are exactly alike. Each comparable property must be analyzed for differences and similarities between it and the subject property. This approach is a good example of the principle of substitution discussed above. The sales price of a comparable is adjusted to reflect the impact on value of any differences between the subject and comparable. The elements of comparable or comparison for which adjustments must be made include the following: property rights. An adjustment must be made when less than fee simple, the full legal bundle of rights, is involved. An adjustment could be made because of the presence of a land lease, ground lease, life estate, easement, deed restriction, and /or encroachment. Financing concessions. The financing terms under which a property was sold must be considered, including mortgage loan terms and owner financing or an interest rate buy-down by a builder-developer. Market conditions. Interest rates, supply and demand, and other economic indicators must be analyzed. Conditions of sale. Adjustments must be made for motivational factors that would affect the sale, such as foreclosure, a sale between family members, or some non-monetary incentive. End of page.